Hola! Hello everybody! So, we are on week 5 of social isolation, and I don't know about you guys, but I find myself wanting to eat all day long. I just want to snack and eat and snack and eat all day long, and I am worried about putting a little weight on. So, trying not to be too bad about what I eat throughout the day made me think of a healthier option. So today's recipe is going to be a little bit healthier, and it was inspired on so many people posting and sharing how many leftover oranges and lemons and limes they have to give away for free. So actually I'm going to use some of my friend Karen Butler's oranges for my little snack that I'm going to present to you today. So I'm going to make something called Pico de Gallo, which is a salad made of jicamas and oranges in Mexico City, but I'm going to do it with my dad and myself's personal twist on it. So these are the ingredients that we are going to use. We are going to use a small jicama, J-I-C-A-M-A, jicama, and it's like a potato. It's the same color, and when you cut it open, it's just as white and crunchy, but you eat it raw. Although you can use it in cooking dishes, and it gives it a little crunch to your meals. But today it was the perfect size. It's a nice little one. It doesn't have any bruises or any cuts. I hope that when we cut it, it's nice and pretty on the inside. So anyways, that's what we're gonna use, a small jicama. We are going to use 3, 4, 5 oranges, depending on the size of the oranges that you have and how much you prefer of each of the vegetables or fruits included in this salad. And we're going to use the juice of a fresh lime, or maybe 2. Also will depend on how juicy the lime is and how much juice it renders. We are also going to be using like a quarter of a red onion, just a little wedge of your onion. If it's a big onion, maybe it would be 1/8 of an onion. If it's a smaller onion, it could be 1/3 or a quarter of an onion, but just a small wedge. That we're going to cut into small, thin wedges so that they're not too overpowering. We are also going to use a jalapeño or a serrano pepper. We're going to start with this with the onion, and we're going to throw it in the bowl. You want to do all of it, and you're going to put some salt in it. You're going to put some salt in it, and you're going to let the onion sweat. In Spanish, you call this desflemar, and I couldn't find a translation for the word in English. So it's just basically making them sweat so they're not as pungent and they're not as strong. Some people don't like onions too much. And again, the amounts that I use are all up to taste, depending on what you like better. If you like more, if you like less, you can adjust as you go. So we're going to start putting the salad together. Here you can see how the onion has started sweating and some of the salt has been dissolving for a little bit. So we're going to move over to our star of the show, the jicama. It is round, and it might be kind of scary to chop up or cut or peel. You don't even know where to start. Anytime I use a round vegetable or a fruit, I always try to start by cutting the ends of it and then holding it and resting it flat so it doesn't roll out on me. So I'm going to start doing that. And as you can see, I have several knives here because I never know which one's the one that's going to work the best, depending on the size of the jicama or how hard it is. So I'm going to switch to this one, and I'm going to cut the other end of it. Sometimes I can start peeling it away. This time it didn't really work. So every time the jicama is at different points of being ripe, and the skin might be a little thicker, might be a little harder to pull off. So you can peel it in different ways. So now that we have the flat ends, you're going to cut it in half. And then you're going to start peeling it. My daughter thought that maybe we can start peeling it with a potato peeler. I've never used a potato peeler. That's not the way we did it at home. But it might work. I just don't use that very often, but you can try that. I usually find it easier for me just to use a knife, and then I just cut it and make sure that I get rid of the skin. all the way around, or if you're good with your hands and knife skills, you can peel it towards you, staying nice and close around the edge of the skin so that you don't use up too much of the flesh of the jicama and lose it. Now that the jicama is nice and peeled and I cleared up the area, I'm going to cut it into small bite-sized cubes to toss into my salad bowl, and that's all you have to do. And again, if it starts rolling, rotate it so that you have smaller pieces to cut. You cut it into slices, and then you do vertical cuts, and then you just cut it into small bite-sized pieces, and you're gonna add it to our onions. I know that it sounds weird that we're using oranges and jicama and onions and chiles, but trust me, give it a try. You will be surprised. You're gonna really like it. So just keep cutting your ingredients into small bite-sized pieces. We can put it all in the bowl. So now I'm going to move on to the oranges. So something that I like to do before I ever start using an orange is I scratch the skin of it, and you take a sniff, and sometimes you can tell if the orange has gone bad by doing that. These are about to be too ripe and they're starting to dry up. That's another reason why I decided to use the oranges in my salad for today. So same thing as with the jicama, it's a round vegetable or fruit in this case, and I want to start cutting the edges first so that it doesn't roll out on me. My dad used to use the oranges with the skin, and we would sit there and eat them and then peel the skin out and then toss the skin on a separate bowl. I don't like to do that anymore. So just as with the jicama, you're gonna lay it on the flat side down, and you're going to cut it along the edges all the way down as far as you can see, trying to get as much of the skin but not all of the white part of it. You want to keep that so that it doesn't start smushing and getting juiced, and it doesn't lose its shape. So if you leave some of the white skin on the orange, you can guarantee that your oranges will stay in a nice, in the nice shape that you cut them in. So just go all the way around, all the way to the bottom. If you get a little bit of the orange itself, it's okay. And don't throw out the skin. Save it, except for the edges, the parts, the tops and the bottoms, the edges that you cut at the beginning, you can toss those out. But I like to keep these for twists on my cocktails or on my drinks. And I might boil some of them with water and sugar and make like an orange flavored simple syrup for lemonades, or to add to my seltzer water, or to something else, maybe a dessert. So this is all you're going to do. Take all those rinds out, and as you can see, I have them all here saved for later. And what you're going to do now is you're going to cut those oranges in bite-sized pieces as well to add to our salad. So I'm going to do just one to demonstrate. Cut it in half again so it doesn't roll around on the board for you and you run the risk of getting cut and getting hurt. And then cut them again in the longer slices, turn it around. Don't squeeze too much because then the juices will come out and it'll become a very wet mess. And then do that to all the oranges, and we will move on to the next step. I have added the oranges to the previously chopped jicama and the slices of the onions with the salt. I added a little bit more of salt to the whole thing, and I'm just going to give it a nice quick toss so the salt and the flavors from the onions and the juice from the oranges start getting blended with the jicama, which the jicama is very light in flavor. It's basically just crunchy and refreshing. It really doesn't have a lot of taste. Here in my house, they don't like it a lot, so basically this is going to be for me and maybe one of the kids. Jicama also has a lot of nutritional benefits. It's super high in vitamin C, doesn't have a lot of carbs if you're carb conscious, and it doesn't have a lot of calories either. Depending on those diets, if you do by points, it's totally free. If you're watching your calories, I think 1 cup of jicama cut up is only 45, maybe 50 calories for the whole thing. So it's a very light snack and vegetable to have handy, and it's nice and crunchy to eat instead of having those crunchy chips. So I'm gonna put this on the side, and I'm gonna move over to cut the chiles. I had mentioned jalapeños or serranos. I don't remember which one I showed originally. I like serranos better just because they're a little bit hotter, but jalapeños are much more commonly used. They're wider and they're not as hot. But I'm going to show you how I cut them, and I might do half and half. So again, I usually start with the ends. So I'm going to remove the tail end of the jalapeno. Be careful, don't touch that because that's hot. And then wash your hands when you're finished because the oils from the seeds and the jalapenos, if you touch your face, your lips, or your eyes, it burns. So you have to be very careful. That's why I left them towards the end. I'm going to cut it. See how this also rolls over? So I'm going to try to cut it in half as well, so it doesn't roll on me as much. And see the white little skin right there? That's actually the part that holds the seeds, which is what makes this the part that's hot. It's not so much the seeds, it's those veins that make it hot. So you can use a potato peeler that you had out earlier and scoop them out and get rid of them. And just fish them out and toss them away. Or you can use your paring knife again and just remove them. Or if you're afraid that it might be too sharp and you could get hurt, then you can always use a spoon and just scoop them out and get rid of them. I actually like it being hot, and I like a lot of the crunchy chiles in my salad, so I might just use the whole thing. So I'm going to do the same thing with my serrano. I'm going to cut it in half, toss the stem, and I'm going to remove some of those extra veins from this serrano pepper, and I'm going to proceed to cut it. You can cut it into long, very skinny pieces. That way, if people are afraid of the heat, they can kind of fish them out or put them on the side. I actually I like to have more of the chiles in every bite I take, so I'm going to cut them a little bit smaller. So remember, the bigger you cut them, the easier you can get rid of them, and the smaller you make them, the more of them you will get, and the more of the chile flavors that will spread out throughout your whole salad. So I'm going to cut them into long skinny strips first of both my chiles. See how this one has all the seeds and the veins? Sometimes I can smell, I can tell beforehand if it's going to be hot or not. And I'm just going to cut them into smaller pieces to add to my salad. And then I'm going to toss it in the bowl. And the last step is going to be to add some fresh lime juice. Sometimes the lime juice is dry, you can feel it from being hard, and right now with the social distancing and stuff, I try not to touch and pick my produce too much. So I was trying to pick it also by the smoothness of the skin. If the skin is tight and smooth and it doesn't have a lot of the little speckles or holes in it, kind of like the orange skin, then you're more likely to get a juicy lime. If they're thicker and darker and they're harder, it may not be so juicy. Another trick is to roll them with the palm of your hand on the counter, or put them in the microwave for 5 to 7 seconds, and that also makes the little pellets of juice inside the juices to explode and release the juices, and it's a really good trick. You can do that. I did that earlier, so I think this is going to be okay. So just roll them up, cut it in half, and you can use one of these lime squeezers if you have one at home, and squeeze it generously all over your ingredients. Or if you don't have one of those, I can use my father's trick too. I've showed it in my other salad trick. You just stick a fork in it and then you can squeeze it, okay? But I do have a lime squeezer, so I'm going to use mine. And then we're going to move this over here. And we're going to give it a toss. See, I can already tell it doesn't have enough chiles for my taste. But you can just toss it and give it a taste. And you want to let it sit there and marinate and have the flavors melt together for a good 20 minutes, unless you're super hungry like me. I haven't eaten all day and it's already 2:30. So this will be my lunch and my snack of today. Just toss it around and give it a try. and then you can adjust your flavor. So see, this is what I try to do when I eat it. In one bite, you get the jicama, you get the oranges, you get the chiles, you can see the lime juice, and a piece or two of that onion that has been sitting and sweating in that salt. I wanted to also let you know that the original recipe only uses jicama, oranges, the lime juice, salt, and some chile powder. That's why I told you that it was going to be my dad and my own interpretation on this. So I don't add chile powder on this particular recipe because it has the fresh chiles, but I might adjust it and add more chiles, more lime juice, more salt if needed. And some people sometimes add other vegetables or other fruits, mango and cucumber being the most common ones. If you're gonna add any of these, make sure that your cucumber doesn't have too many seeds. This one is the tail end of one, so it does still have a little bit of seeds. And mangoes, it's make sure that it's firm but not too green. But if it were to be a little too green, it's fine because it's more like a salad rather than a fruit at this point. So you would do the same thing. You cut the tail end of it, and then you peel it, and then you cut it into cubes, and then you can add it to your salad. But again, I'm going to leave it in my original version this one time. And if you have been liking my videos and my recipes, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click like, share, and comment if you have any questions, or if you want me to try something else, or if you have any other questions regarding this particular salad or any other uses for jicama or anything else. Thanks for watching.